Hi everyone, my name is Navin and my 55-gallon Walstad style aquarium is currently overgrown. So my goal for this video is to give my tank a cleaning. However, I'm not really doing a deep cleaning, I'm just going to remove some plants because I have a few problems in this tank currently that I'm trying to solve. I'm going to move over to the side so I can show you something with my dwarf Sagittaria that I have growing along the bottom here. Because I've been away for a while and I haven't removed any of the plants from the surface, it's blocking a lot of light that would usually reach the bottom layer of my aquarium. Now, nothing's wrong with it. You can see it looks pretty good. Plants are doing fine, everything is thriving. However, it's just very overgrown. The top layer has all of this duckweed, a bunch of guppy grass. I have some water wisteria over here. I have a bunch of different plants that started as stem plants, but they kind of grew out and started taking over the top. So I'm not really concerned with the floating plants that I have or whatever plants decided to start floating up here that were originally rooted. I care most importantly about having a nice luscious lawn because I think it looks cool. What I'm currently experiencing is that a lot of my dwarf Sagittaria on this side is not receiving a lot of light, so it's actually dying off. I don't want that to happen. I kind of moved some of my floating plants away and I pushed them towards the center so more light can be captured here, and you could kind of see how it's darker in this section and lighter over here. So with most Walstad aquariums, all plant growth is good. It's going to be filtering your aquarium. However, I kind of want a more aquascaped look for my tank. Let's get the wheels in motion and clean this tank up. My method is nothing complicated. I am just going to remove a bunch of plants from the top and we're going to see how much brighter my tank is when I'm done. So this is just a handful of duckweed. All of this is guppy grass and it would be great in somebody's tank, but unfortunately I have to get rid of it. One plant that I have that I like a lot is this water wisteria. It makes these really nice leaves and it's kind of mixed with my guppy grass right now, but it is actually a stem plant, so I can root it and it will continue to grow. And I usually have them in the back of my aquarium. However, I just don't really like this plant because it grows so quickly. So I'm gonna just toss it. I'll of course keep just a little bit of it in my tank so that this way it can keep growing and I can have that biodiversity in plant species, but I'm not really concerned with this. It grows too fast and blocks out so much light. However, if you do want a good, easy beginner plant, highly recommend water wisteria. So I just wanted to take a moment really quickly and show you how much of a difference it's already making. I just removed about half of the coverage of my tank and look how much light there is. All of this light was being missed out on by my dwarf Sagittaria because of all of the floating plants that I had. And I have just removed a good, huge chunk of floating plants. And all this is good, none of this is bad, but it's just not to the design that I want, so I'm going to remove them. And this is something that I commonly do about every month routinely. It's not gonna harm my tank and the plants will grow back because I always try to retain some amount of it. I always keep a little bit of guppy grass, a little bit of water wisteria, a little bit of whatever else is floating for it to repopulate. So even right now, you can see, look how half of my tank is so bright and then the other half of the tank is still so dark. So let's try to clean up the other side now. The first thing I do is try to scrape away the duckweed at the top so I can see what's underneath it. All of this is a little bit of duckweed and a little bit of guppy grass. But I'm going to scrape the duckweed first and then move on to the other plants. You can already tell the difference. I'm not even finished yet. I still have all of my guppy grass still growing in this corner, but look at how much brighter my tank is just by removing some of the duckweed. Doesn't it look great? Now it's looking way brighter, but still some work to do. Check this out. All of this nice guppy grass. I feel bad that I have to throw it away, but it's just an endless supply. Really nice plant. I have this plant. I'm not sure what it's called. I think it is a species of hygrophila. But it creates these really nice pinkish, almost red, depending on how strong your sunlight is, leaves. And I like it in my tank, and it doesn't grow that well, so I'm gonna actually keep this and retain as much of it as I can. So we'll pop this back into the aquarium. And in exchange, we'll remove more guppy grass. Looks pretty good, right? Look how much better it's looking. It looks so much brighter. You can actually see the Anubias now. You can see the full extent of the dwarf Sagittaria. So much light, it's overexposed. But there's so much more light coming into my aquarium and so much more swimming space. I'm really happy now. So right now I have a lot of stuff just floating in my tank. All of those particles and food and whatever was stuck to my plants, I was binded to it, are kind of free floating in my aquarium. So it looks a little murky, a little cloudy. However, all of this will settle and my water will go back to clear as my sponge filter runs. So I'm not too concerned with that. I think already it's looking great compared to how it was before. Now, I understand many of you might be thinking I removed such a large amount of biomass. So much of the plant density I had just got thrown away. And that is kind of true. Check this out. Isn't that nuts? This is just so much plants. This is everything that I threw away. And it does suck to throw away so much good plant material. There's nothing wrong with this. All of this guppy grass is what people buy online in little plastic baggies for $7.99, $8.99, and I'm just throwing away heaps of it. Like, this is so much. Of course, I do feel bad because everybody's trying to grow plants, and if I had friends, I would be able to give them some guppy grass for their own aquarium. But if you've kept guppy grass, you know that it grows exponentially. So I'm not concerned about throwing it away because I have a little bit left, and that same amount will repopulate the entire tank, because that's what I do every other month. My fish will have more swim space. The plants I do care about, such as the dwarf Sagittaria, won't suffer as much because it's getting so much more light. And I think overall, my tank will still be balanced and self-sufficient. You can see my angelfish is happy to be swimming around the tank again. It's really good that I have tons of plants that I'm not removing. My Anubias is a whole system that's intricate and like a labyrinth, and I have all of the dwarf Sagittaria, and I retain some of my guppy grass and water wisteria, and I think another form of hygrophila. So I know everything will grow, but if your tank is not seasoned and mature, what I just did could be risky. A lot of people, they're relying on these plants to absorb the excess nutrients that their fish is producing. That's the whole science behind the Walstad experiment, or the Walstad method. All of the column feeders are great, but from an aesthetic purposes, I like the ones that are rooted in my substrate, specifically the dwarf Sagittaria. So I want this to be the focal point of my aquarium. It is a Walstad method aquarium, but I still want it to look kind of aquascaped. And I think it's quite successful. I don't think that my tank will crash because I remove so much plant material, but I know what I'm doing. I'm familiar with it. I have a very low bio load in terms of my fish stocking, so I know that the plants that are still there can handle it. And anything that is excessive, all of the floating plants will regrow back and absorb any nutrients. I would say if you're now starting a Walstad or planted aquarium in general and you're doing the low tech or no filter approach, don't do what I did too early. You really need to make sure you have an excess amount of plants before you can start subtracting them the way that I just did. I've done this a few times and know that my aquarium will bounce back from this, even though I removed so much plant life. I know it will regrow. You'll eventually find the cadence of how often you should scrape the plants from the surface of your aquarium or do trimmings. But it's all dependent on your own tank, the tank size, the stocking you have, and what kind of plants you're keeping, whether they're slow growing or fast growing. I prefer fast growing plants, this way I can make sure that they are growing and making use of excessive nutrients in my tank, but also it's super easy to remove. I don't have to worry about if I'm taking too much out. I can just go sweep my arms at the top of the surface and throw away handfuls and clumps of plant material. The biggest thing about cleaning Walstad aquariums is that you do not disturb the substrate layer. Remember, this is a layer of soil capped by a layer of gravel. I don't want to disturb the substrate at all. I can mix accidentally all of the dirt and have it suspended in my water column, and there's no going back from that. So I try to minimize my disturbances to the substrate as much as possible. I know some people really like to siphon their gravel or use those siphon vacuums with the large tube that kind of goes down and sucks the mulm off of the surface of your substrate. I don't do that. I don't even do water changes. It's not necessary. The mulm is fine. The mulm is not impacting anything. Maybe if my tank was like 7 years established and I really found the mulm unsightly, I might do that. As of right now, it's something I don't even want to consider. I just do not want to disturb my substrate because that is what holds together the whole Walstad method. There are way better explanations on YouTube of how to use a gravel vacuum or a siphon vacuum to siphon your substrate, and even ones that show you how to do it at the surface of your substrate so you're not going down into your dirt layer. I would recommend you go watch those videos because I simply do not do that approach in any of my tanks. I don't use gravel vacuums. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my 10th video. By removing most of the plants from the surface layer of my aquarium, I'm making sure that the other plants that I have along my substrate and in my rocks are reaching more of the light than they were previously. This will give my dwarf Sagittaria a chance to bounce back and repopulate around them, making my carpet even more dense, because right now I was experiencing my dwarf Sagittaria dying back a little due to not having enough light. But that's it for this video. I wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and I would sincerely appreciate it if you could leave a like, comment, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Any interaction with my content really gives me a boost, so if you could like or subscribe or leave a comment, it helps other people discover my channel and lets my channel grow. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my 10th video here on YouTube, and I hope to see you guys in the next. But really quickly, let me show you what my tank looks like now. I'll step away. Doesn't it look so good? The fish have so much more room. Everything looks really bright and really nice. I couldn't be happier with the way it looks.